was meticulously planned but poorly executed by a gang of armed robbers who clearly don't care who they hurt.
He lives his life according to the title of rapper 50 Cent's 2003 album, Get Rich or Die Trying. In this video, we will take you into the world of Reynold Glover, who was the youngest person in New South Wales to have been charged with murder. Glover does not appear to have the part of his brain that registers fear or consequences. Without the backing of a gang, Glover staged a one-man war against feared crime boss Bassam Hamzy. Reynold Glover, whose transformation from a 12-year-old charged with murder into a feared member of Sydney's criminal underworld can now be revealed. Glover was charged over 6 armed robberies of cash in transit vans in 2009, where about $6 million was stolen. After a marathon trial, he was found not guilty of all the charges. In a twist, he was later jailed for perjury after police secretly recorded him admitting to his involvement in the robberies. So we're here outside Cranbrook School in Sydney's eastern suburbs. It's the most expensive school in Australia, and its alumni include Sydney's elite like media identity James Packer. On the 25th of May 2009, it was the site of arguably the most daring and brazen robbery committed by the armed robbery gang. At about 8:30 in the morning, they drove a stolen BMW with heavily tinted windows through the front gate of the school. They parked in a parking spot outside the administration building and waited for up to 2 hours for an armoured guard truck to arrive. 2 students of the school walked past the BMW and pressed their faces against the glass in an attempt to see who was inside. But the glass was tinted so dark they couldn't make out the 3 men inside. When the armoured guard truck arrived at the school at about 11 o'clock, 2 men sprang from the BMW and intercepted the guards and held them at gunpoint. They threatened to kill the men unless they opened the truck. Meanwhile, as the robbery was unfolding, students and teachers were watching the scenes unfold from their classrooms. Ultimately, the robbery was unsuccessful. The truck security mechanism kicked in and the robbers could not infiltrate the truck. They had to settle for stealing $3,000 in cash, and they fled down this road right here once police arrived. It began on January 11 in 1999. A then 12-year-old Glover, wielding a metal pole with his face covered with a balaclava, faced down 56-year-old Ralph Terrence Mason during a home invasion with 3 other youths. Minutes later, Mason was dead and Glover was later charged with murder. At that point, he was the youngest person in New South Wales to have been charged with murder, according to statistics at the time. About 1 year later, Glover pleaded guilty to robbery and company after the evidence could not prove he inflicted the fatal blows. Glover's murder charge was eventually dropped. Instead, he pleaded guilty to robbery and company. And in October 2000, Glover was sentenced to a 2-year probation order and released. In the time since, Glover has transformed from a skinny kid from Marrickville into one of the most feared members of Sydney's criminal underworld. He has committed some of the most infamous crimes in New South Wales, stretching from his teenage years to a 2013 crime spree that has earned him more than 27 years in jail. But you wouldn't know it. That's because his identity has been suppressed by a court for the better part of a decade. Glover's name was suppressed because he had so many overlapping criminal cases. The crimes all received major news coverage. But until now, it has never been revealed that Glover was either responsible for committing them or was linked to them. The crimes of Glover or his extended gang have embroiled celebrities, drug dealers, a high-profile restaurateur, and some of Australia's most feared organised crime figures. The most brazen moment of Glover's criminal career came in 2013. Without the backing of a gang, Glover staged a one-man war against feared crime boss Bassam Hamzy. It ended with Glover shooting a member of Hamzy's family through the front door of their home. In 2009, Glover was charged but eventually found not guilty of staging daring armed robberies where $6 million in cash was stolen by men using assault rifles and stolen sports cars. Glover was only 23 years old at the time. Recently, he pleaded guilty to a notorious armed robbery of a cash-in-transit van outside Broadway shopping centre, where shots were fired in front of shocked morning commuters. So on the morning of March 4 in 2013, this area here was crawling with people. You had students heading to one of the local universities, you had workers grabbing a quick coffee before they headed to the office. But none of that stopped Reynold Glover from attempting to rob a cash-in-transit van right here. That day, he was playing the role of armed robbery educator. He'd agreed to teach a Sydney crime figure the best practice on how to hold up a cash-in-transit van. So when the truck pulled up, Glover and a number of other men jumped out of a stolen Audi, and the same formula, one using an assault rifle, another using a semi-automatic pistol, attempted to hold it up. Glover also had to be quick that day because he was due to face the Downing Centre local court, which is about a kilometre east from here, on other charges. The robbery was unsuccessful and Glover and the other men could not infiltrate the truck, so they had to flee with nothing. Glover was charged, and it marked the last court case he had before the courts, and he pleaded guilty to it in July. A judge once said Glover is an anomaly because he does not take drugs or abuse alcohol. Glover once told a friend that he lives his life according to the title of rapper 50 Cent's 2003 album, Get Rich or Die Trying. Beyond his financial motivations, associates say Glover does not appear to have the part of his brain that registers fear or consequences. But strangely, he's also known to be polite and intelligent, but it's best not to get on his bad side because he keeps a list of enemies he plans to kill or injure. Currently, Glover is partway through a maximum 27-year jail term for some of the crimes just mentioned.